Dear viewers, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we'll be discussing on valuation under GST. So in this video, we'll be having discussion on value of supply, recipient, supplier, transactional value, then consideration, then conditions for supply. So kindly watch the video till then, like it, share and subscribe the channel. If you have any comments about the video, please put your comments in the comment box. Now let's move to the presentation here. Of course, by this time we know that GST has subsumed all the taxes except a few. Say for example, the sales tax has been subsumed in the GST itself. So in order to levy the GST, we need the taxable value of supply. So the levy of the GST, it depends upon the value of supply of the goods or services or both. In the early days, we had different rules of valuation for levy of the different type of taxes. Say for example, the valuation as per CBEC, that is Central Board for Excise and Customs, is different from the valuation or the purpose of the goods under sales tax or under the VAT, etc. here. But now there has been a unique valuation rules for the purpose of levy of the GST here. And this GST is leviable on an ad valorem basis, that is percentage of the value of supply of the goods or services or both. So thus it is important to know to determine the value of value on which the tax is to be paid here. And such provisions, the provisions of valuations to determine the value of supply are included in section 15 of the CGST Act. In other words, to say section 15 of the CGST Act lays down the valuation rules under the GST here. Basically, GST will be charged on the transactional value. Transaction value, in a very simple to say, it is, we'll have a in detail discussion. Transaction value is the price actually paid or payable or for supply of goods or services here or both. So now let's understand what is this value of supply then. Value of supply, in a very simple to say, it is the amount paid by the recipient of supply to the supplier as a consideration for supply here. So when we look into the meaning of the value of supply, it comes out with the two parties. One is a recipient and another one is a supplier here. So we should understand who is a supplier and who is the recipient of the goods here. Now let us understand the meaning of recipient, which is given as per section 2, section 92, where it says a recipient of supply of goods or services or both means where a consideration is payable for supply of goods or services or both, the person who is liable to pay that consideration. So for example, if A sells goods to B and B is considered as a recipient of the goods here. So in a very simple to say, the person one who receives the supply of goods or services or both, and return he provides the consideration here. Where no consideration is payable for supply of goods, the person to whom the goods are delivered or made available, or to whom possession or use of the goods is given or made available. Say for example, assume that if a company is having two branches, whereas one branch manufactures raw materials and another branch the manufactured goods will be supplied to the other branch, so its own head office. So there will not be any such consideration. So where no consideration is payable for supply of goods, the person to whom the goods are delivered or made available, or to whom the possession or use of the goods is given or made available, and where no consideration is payable for the supply of goods, supply of services, the person to whom the service is rendered. So a recipient is one liable to pay consideration to the supplier for supplies or services rendered received by him here. So he is the person one who receives the supply of goods or services or both here, and in return who makes payment here. So that is nothing but the consideration here. Now let's understand who is a supplier under section 2 subsection 105. Supplier in relation to the goods or services or both shall mean the person supplying the said goods or services or both. Say for example, if a person is indulged in supply of the raw materials or indulged in supply of the finished goods or semi-finished goods, so all these what we call it as supplier here. And also shall include an agent acting as on behalf of a such supplier in relation to the goods or services or both supplied. Say for example, there may be a middleman who purchases goods from the foreign countries and supplies in the domestic market. So the person one who is involved in the purchase and sale of the such goods in the domestic market, he is also called as supplier here. So in a simple word to say, the supplier is one who supplies goods or services or both here. So now let's understand the transactional value. Here transactional value means the price actually paid or payable for the goods when sold and includes, in addition to the amount charged as a price, any amount that the buyer is liable to pay or on behalf of the sale by reason or in connection with the sale, whether the payable at the time of sale or at any other time. Actually, this definition is given by the Central Excise Act of 1944, whereas the GST Act has not defined what is a transaction value. So, section 15, section 1, which provides this of the CGST Act 2007, which provides a transaction value as a transaction value is a value which is the price actually paid or payable for the said supply of the goods or services or both, where the supplier and the recipient of the supply are not related and the price is the sole consideration. So in order to determine the supply, there are two conditions. One is supplier and recipient are not related to each other, and price must be the sole, S-O-L-E, it should be sole consideration here. So when the transaction value satisfies, when the price satisfies these two conditions, then it can be considered as a transaction value here. So therefore, the transaction value is a basis for valuation of supply of goods or services or both under the GST regime. For the levy of the tax, that is GST, it is necessary to determine the transaction value, and such transaction value is the price actually paid or payable for the supply of the goods or services here. So now let's look into these two conditions in detail. So when the supplier and the recipient of the goods are not related, it means supply of goods or services or both must be between a non-related persons. So they should not have a relation of any kind between them. If the supply of the goods or services both has taken place between related persons or between the distinct persons, then the transaction value has to be ignored and the value of supply would be based on the basis of the valuation rules here. If the transaction value is ignored, then the valuation rules have to be considered for determining the value of supply. So here they are non-related to each other. And if there is a relation between these parties, that is supplier and the recipient, it will have an influence on the determination of the price also. Say for example, a company is engaged in the supply of the raw materials, and B company manufactures and B company sells the finished products to company A only. So then it leads to influences of the on the price. So if there is no relation between the parties, valuation will be made as per valuation rules. Now let's look into who are the related persons here. Such persons are officers or directors in of one another's company. That means the owner of a business should be officer or director or another business with which he is transacting. For example, Mr. Suresh is an owner of X company limited, and Mr. Girish is an owner of Y company limited. If Mr. X is appointed, if Mr. X is Mr. Suresh is appointed as an officer or director in Y Limited and Mr. Girish is appointed as an officer in X Limited, then X and Y are related entities. Then such persons are employer and employee here. Employer and employee are considered to be related persons. Any supply between them is considered as supply between related persons, and the value determined based on the valuation rules. Such persons are legally recognized partners in business. For example, if Mr. Ram and Mr. Bharat are partners in a partnership firm, in a firm called as RB and Company Limited, as per the conditions, Ram and Bharat shall be related persons. Any transaction of supply between Ram and Bharat in the course of business shall be treated as a supply, even if made without consideration. Then any person directly or indirectly owns, controls or holds 25% or more of the outstanding voting stock or shares of both of them. If Mr. X holds shares having voting rights of 25% or more of X of A Company Limited, then both the company A and B shall be deemed to be related here. And one of them directly or indirectly controlled by third person. In this condition relationship in established on the basis of control, for example, Ravi Limited controls the composition of the board of directors of Vishu Company Limited, and Ganesh Limited. X Limited is set to control both the companies here. That is Vishu and Ganesh Limited. In such case, Vishu Limited and Ganesh Limited are related persons. Then together they directly or indirectly control a third person. So normally it happens in case of a holding company and subsidiary companies, that's all. So when they control directly or indirectly the third person, even in such case they are to be treated as related persons. Then members of the same family. So here the section 2 subsection 14 provides the family means the spouse and children of the person and the parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters of the persons if they are wholly or mainly dependent on the said person. The term person also includes legal persons and persons who are associated in the business of one another, in that one is the sole agent and or the sole distributor or sole concessionaire, howsoever described, or the other shall be deemed to be related here. So all these together we call it as a supply, and in all these cases supply and recipient are related here. So whenever the supply and the recipient of the supply are related with each other, in such case the valuation will be made as per the valuation GST valuation rules here. Then the next person comes here, a distinct person. Section 25 subsection 4 of the CGST Act 2017, which provides that a person who a distinct person is any taxable person who has either obtained or is required to obtain multiple registration, that is more than one registration within the same state, or it is typed as of, it should be or in a different states. In other words, to say a person who has obtained or is required to obtain more than one registration, whether in one state or union territory, or more than one state or union territory, shall in respect of each such a registration be treated as a distinct person for the purpose of this act. Say for example, a business has got a two or three diversification. Assume that a company is engaged in FMCG goods, a company is also engaged in the automobile industry, a company is also engaged in say for example software business. You take for example Tata is there in all these three, and the location is say for example in Maharashtra, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So in such case, assume that if the Tata company is carrying automobile business in Mumbai, whereas it is carrying the software business in case of Bangalore, and whereas it is carrying this FMCG manufacturing FMCG goods in Chennai. In such cases, it has to obtain a registration for each business in a different state. So it is considered as a distinct person. Or sometimes it may have all these diversification of businesses in the same state. In such case also it has to obtain a separate registration or the multiple registration, what we call, in the same state. So in such case it is called as a distinct person. An establishment of a person who has obtained or is required to obtain registration in a state or any of his other establishment in another state shall be treated as establishments of distinct person for the purpose of this act here. Then the next one comes here. The price is the sole consideration here. Consideration is the concept of value offered and accepted by people or organization entering into contract. So always there should be consideration for the contract here. Anything of the value promised by one party to the other when making a contract can be treated as a consideration. It can also be defined as any amount paid or any act of forbearance in return for the supply of the goods or services. In a very simple common layman language to say, anything which is received for the supply of the goods or services is treated as the consideration here. For example, Mr. X has purchased a car from Mr. B for rupees 5 lakhs. Here X's consideration is rupees 5 lakhs and B's consideration is the car. And it is normally of a reciprocal in nature. That is what we call as a give and take policy. So section 2, subsection 28 of the CGST Act, which defines consideration as consideration in relation to supply of the goods, includes any payment made or to be made in money or otherwise, but does not include any subsidy given by central or the state government. The monetary value of any act or forbearance, whether or not voluntarily. That means here, the transactional value shall be accepted if the price is the sole consideration. In other words, to say what is received or what is to be received should only be the price or paid or payable to the supplier. No other consideration in any form should be payable for the supply here. In generally, under CGST Act, under CGST section 15 of the CGST Act 2017, the valuation of the supply of the goods or services is done based on the transaction value only if the price is the sole consideration and the supply and the recipient are not related with each other. If the price is not the sole consideration, valuation shall be done as per the CGST valuation rules here. Now let's look into the types of consideration. We broadly classify the consideration into three categories. That is a consideration received fully in money, consideration received not in money, consideration received partly in money. Now let's look into this. Consideration received fully in money. In this case, consideration against supply of goods or services or both is received fully in the form of money. It is also called as a monetary consideration. The payment of consideration may be in cash, or maybe by check, or maybe by credit card, or maybe by RTGS, or maybe payment through electronic means, that is a fund transfer, NEFT, RTGS, etc. Then it may be through debit card also. Now let's look into the consideration received not in money. In this case, consideration against supply of the goods or services or both is received not in the form of money and received in the form of kind. It is also called as a non-monetary consideration. Such a non-monetary consideration may be barter agreements, that is exchange of goods for goods, then exchange of services. Then if consideration received not in money, the taxable value has to be determined as prescribed in CGST valuation rules here. So the barter transaction is very simple here. For example, if Ramesh buys a TV from a dealer in Belgaum, now in return Ramesh has not paid anything to the dealer in money, but in return he has supplied 20 kgs of cashew nuts to the dealer. Here Ramesh's consideration is TV, and whereas the dealer's consideration is cashew nut here. Then exchange of services for services here. Let us consider a carpenter has provided a service to a civil engineer, and then an engineer in exchange provides his services for construction of building in free of cost. So here engineer's consideration to carpenter is a service here. Then consideration received partly in money. In this case, consideration against supply of goods or services or both is received partly in the form of money and partly in kind. When consideration is received partly in money, the taxable value has to be determined as prescribed in CGST valuation rules. For example, if Sunil is a dealer in a supply of mobile phones, he sells 5 mobile phones to Mr. Rajesh for rupees 1,25,000, and Mr. Rajesh proposed to Mr. Sunil to pay only rupees 2 lakhs in cash, and he requested to supply the computer keyboards for remaining amounts. Here consideration is partly in cash and partly in supplying here. Now let's see which of the payments are not considered as a consideration here. So in there are, even though there are certain payments are made, but they cannot be considered as a consideration here. Payment received is not a consideration when there is no direct link between the payment and the supply, or there is no supply of goods and services in return for the payment here. Then fines and penalty charges. If a payment is a fine or a penalty, then it is not considered as a consideration. However, if the fine or penalty is actually in addition is additional consideration for a supply, fulfillment of the terms and conditions of the agreement, it is a consideration for supply and is subject to GST. So say for example, if any payments are made in the form of fine for the default etc. here, in such case it cannot be considered as a consideration. Then the grants. When grants are received without any benefit in return, it is not consideration. If the grantor receives a benefit in return, grant is treated as consideration. Say for example, if any grant is provided by the government, in such case it cannot be considered as a consideration here. Then monetary donations. It is freely given with no expectation of anything in relation anything in return, which is not a consideration for any supply. Monetary donation is a consideration for the supply of the benefit to him. Say for example, by supplying of the goods, if he gets by supplying goods worth rupees of 5 lakhs, and if a person gets a directorship in the company, so it cannot be considered as a consideration here. Sponsorship payment. Sponsorship has always identifiable benefits. In such case, it is considered as a consideration. For example, many companies sponsor reality shows or the cricket matches, so they have got identifiable benefits. That's why that is not considered as a consideration here. Then project funding. The funding of the project is not a consideration for supply. The government may provide certain funds for completion of the project here. So in such case, it cannot be considered as a project funding is not considered as a consideration. Then the deposits. Deposit is not a consideration whether it is refundable or non-refundable, or in the form of security deposit does not in the form of payment for the supply. There are a few types of deposits here. That is a forfeiture deposit. It is a compensation for damages due to non-performance of the contract or for the breach of contract. Forfeit of deposit is not a consideration. Security deposit. A deposit is taken as a security is not a consideration for supply. Say for example, just like a caution money taken by the college for the students, which will be refundable. A return deposit. It is not a consideration for any supply because it is not a part of payment. So these are the various types of consideration, and these are the various payments which are not to be considered as a consideration here. Thank you.